Hello everyone and assalamu alaikum. Today we're gonna go through another walkthrough. This time it's the higher paper for May 2018, end of May, so around about June time. Okay, and it's the non-calculator. This is the Edexcel paper. So let's get started. The first question, it's on adding fractions. So we are adding. It says work out 107 plus 104. We've got two mixed numbers, so we're going to convert the mixed numbers into improper fractions first. You can do this another way, but this is my preferred way. So I'm going to do 2 times 7, that's 14, add 1, that gives me 15 over 7. And then I'm going to do the same thing for 1/4. So do 1 times 4, gives me 4, add the 1, that's 5 over 4. Alright, I got these two as improper fractions. I'm gonna start off in yellow now, so just portion that bit off. So my new fractions are gonna be 15 over 7 plus 5 over 4. Now in order to add fractions, the denominators need to be the same, and the denominators are not the same. So in order to make them the same, I could multiply top and bottom over here, this fraction, by 7. And the reason for this is because the other denominator is 7, and this fraction I would multiply top and bottom by 4, again because the other fraction, the denominator, is 4. So that gives me 15. 4 times 15 gives me 60 over 28. Add 35 over 28. This gives me 90 over 28. Now both 90 and 28 are even numbers. So what I can do is, in order to simplify it, this fraction, I can divide both of them by 2. That gives me 45 over 14. Now my answer is an improper fraction. So in order to convert an improper fraction into a mixed number, what I will do is I'm going to divide the 45 by the 14, and I know 14 times 3. Let me do the bus stop. Okay, so I put 45 on the inside and 14 on the outside. 14 times 3 is 42. So 14 goes into 45 3 times, with a remainder of 3. So the answer is going to be 3. This, one second, this 3 will come over here. The remainder will form the numerator of the fraction part, and the denominator remains the same. Oops, the denominator is 14. I do not know why I'm writing 5 over there. The denominator is 14. And there we go. That's that question answered. Right, let's move on to the next question. It says work out 1/5 divided by 3 over 4. Alright, before I start dividing, I'm going to first convert the mixed number into an improper fraction, again just like the previous question. So 1 over 5. Again, I'll multiply the whole number by the denominator. 1 times 5 gives me 5, and add back the numerator. That's 6 over 5. So I'm going to rewrite my question. 6 over 5 divided by 3 over 4. Now, in order to divide a fraction, I multiply the fraction by the fraction on the left hand side of the division sign. I multiply it by the reciprocal of the fraction on the right hand side. So in order to find the reciprocal of 3 over 4, I'm going to flip it over. So that's 4 over 3. Okay, so now let's start cancelling this down. So 6 over 5 times 4 over 3. I'm going to look for any two numbers that are on different levels but come in the same times table apart from the 1 times table. So I've got the numbers 6 and 4 over here. They're on different levels and come in the same times table, the 3 times table, so I can simplify them. 6 and 3, I'm sorry about that. 6 and 3 comes in the 3 times table, and I can divide them by the 3 times table. 6 and 4 over here are on the same level. Both of them come in the 2 times table. I cannot simplify them because both of them are on the same level. So in order to simplify, you need to be on different levels and then come in the same times table. Right, I'm going to change my color. Yellow is a bit too weird for this one. 1 second. Right, let's quickly divide 6 by 3, divide 3 by 3. So that simplifies my answer. 6 divided by 3 is 2 over 5 times 4 over 1. I cannot simplify this any further. So my answer, if I cannot simplify, I just multiply, and I multiply across. 2 times 4 is 8, and 1 times 5, or 5 times 1 is 5. So my answer would be 8 over 5. Right. What I need to do next is change this into a mixed number. So 5 goes into 8 once, remainder 3. So 8 over 5 can also be written as 1, 3 over 5. And that's that question done. Let's move on to the next question. Alright, so this question says, in a village, the number of houses and the number of flats are in the ratio 7 to 4. So I'm going to stop reading the question, and where the ratio is, I'm going to label the ratio. So the houses is 7 parts and the flats are 4 parts. Okay, the number of flats and the number of bungalows are in the ratio 8 to 5. So flats is 8 parts and bungalows are 5 parts. I'm not going to carry on reading the question. At this moment in time, I would stop and I would try and see if I can compare the two ratios together. The first ratio, houses to flats, is 7 to 4, right? And flats to bungalows is 8 to 5. Both these ratios have flats in it. So I'm going to try to get the two flats to be the same number. I can see clearly that actually the first ratio is 7 to 4. The second ratio is 8 to 5, right? So I can get the flats to become 8 in the first ratio just by multiplying it by 2. So that would mean the flats would be 8 parts, and then the houses also I would have to multiply by 2, so that would be 14 parts. Now this would help me to compare it to the second ratio of flats to bungalows. Flats are 8 parts already and bungalows are 5 parts. So I can compare these two ratios now because both of them have flats as 8 parts. And the number of flats in the village is the same, right? It's not going to change. Okay, so the next part of the question says there are 50 bungalows in the village. So if I look at the second ratio, the number of bungalows is 50. So if I multiply 5 by 10, I'm going to get 50, right? So I'm going to multiply 8 by 10. That gives me 80. Which would mean if there are 50 bungalows in the village, there must be 80 flats in the village. So let's go back to our first ratio. We know now that there are 80 flats, right? So I have to multiply 8 parts by 10 to get the number of flats. Which would mean I would multiply 14 by 10 to get the number of houses. Which would mean there are 140 houses in the village. And that's what the question asks. How many houses in the village? 140 houses. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Right. Renee buys 5 kilograms of sweets to sell. She pays £10 for the sweets. So her cost price is £10. Renee puts all the sweets into bags. Okay. She puts 250 grams of sweets into each bag. I'm gonna stop over there. Right, 5 kilograms is equal to 5 times 1000 grams, which is 5000 grams. I converted 5 kilograms into grams. The reason I did this is I want to see how many bags Renee made. I know she puts 250 grams of sweets in each bag. So to get the number of bags, I'm going to divide 5000 grams, which is 5 kilograms, by the mass of the sweets she puts in each bag, which is 250. What I could do is divide both sides by 10, numerator and denominator. So that would be 500 divided by 25. Now I know that 25 times 2 is 50. So 25 times 20 would be 500. So 500 divided by 25 is 20. So that's 20 bags Renee has used. Alright, let's go back to the question now. She sells each bag for 65p. Let's stop over there. So her total selling price would be 65p times 20. Right, and I can just do a quick multiplication here to work it out. 65 times 2, and then I'm going to multiply it by 10. 2 times 5 is 10, carry 1 up. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1, 130, and then 130 times 10 is 1300. Can I squeeze it in? So that's 1300 pence, which is also the same as £13, right? Because 100 pennies make a pound. Okay, so she sold all of her sweets for £13. Right. Work out her percentage profit. So profit percentage is your profit is selling price minus the cost price, and you divide it by the cost price times 100 to work out your profit percentage. Or alternatively, you can do your profit divided by your cost price times 100. Your selling price was £13, and Renee's selling price was £13, and her cost price was £10, divided by 10 times 100. Forgot the brackets. me put them in. There we go. 13 minus 10 is 3 over 10 times 100, and that would be 3 times 100 is 300 divided by 10. That is 30%. Okay, so she makes a profit of 30%. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, a cycle race across America is 3,069.25 miles in length. Juan knows his average speed for his previous races is 15.12 miles per hour. For the next race across America, he will cycle for 8 hours per day. Estimate how many days Juan would take to complete the race. Alright, this is an estimation question. So I'm going to start off the distance. I'm going to estimate it at being 3,000 miles. Now, if I was to look at his speed, 15.12, if I estimated it to be 15 miles per hour, it would help me with the calculation. So the amount of time it would take him would be distance divided by speed, and you can remember that from the distance, speed, time triangle. Here we go. Distance on the top, speed and time. So that's 3,000 divided by 15, and that would give me 200 hours. Okay, for the next race across America, he would cycle for 8 hours per day. So I would do 200 hours divided by 8 hours to see how many days it would take him. I'm just gonna do a bus stop here. Don't think I've left enough space, but I'll try. Okay, 8 goes into 2 0 times, remainder 2. 8 goes into 20 twice. 8 times 2 is 16. 20 take away 16 is 4, so that's my remainder. 8 goes into 45 times, so that's 25 days it should take him. That's my estimate. Right, let's move on to the next part of the question. Okay, Juan trains for the race. The average speed he can cycle at increases. It is now 16.27 miles per hour. How does this affect your answer to part A? Now there's two ways of doing this. So there'll be some people who would say, okay, 16.27 is still very close to 15, and they would round that number down to 15. So when you do 3,000 divided by 15, you still end up with 200 hours. Alternatively, so the person who does that would say there's no difference to their calculation. But alternatively, this 16 could be rounded to 20 miles per hour, to one significant figure. Now, if someone does that, right, when you're estimating, you would divide 3,000 by 20, and that would reduce the number of hours. So 3,000 divided by 20 would be 15 hours. Oh, sorry, 150 hours, not 15, as compared to 2 hours before. So 150 hours, and then you could divide that by 8, and that would be a fewer number of days. It's almost 50 hours. It is 50 hours less than the previous estimate. So if 16.27 is rounded up to 20 miles per hour, 16.27 miles per hour, it would reduce. Can I fit reduce over here? Almost there, yeah. The number of days. To finish the race, to complete the race. Is it a race? Yeah, it is a race. You can also, if it was a 2-mark question, I would also mention that. However, if it is rounded down to 15 miles an hour, it would have absolutely no difference. You could go one way or the other. Both answers are correct. So if you round it down to 15 miles an hour, it would not reduce. It would be the same number of days. That would still be an acceptable answer. Right, let's go to the next question. Okay, this question, it states that there is a solid square-based pyramid VABCD. The base of the pyramid is of side 6 centimeters. So this would be 6 centimeters as well, but that's the midpoint, so that would be 3 centimeters and 3 centimeters. Just remember this question from the previous video, the foundation walkthrough. It was in there, that's why I know it's a midpoint. I didn't assume it. It would be wrong for me to assume it without reading the whole question. So the base of the pyramid is a square of side 6 centimeters. The height of the pyramid was 4 centimeters, and M is the midpoint of BC. That's why I've got the 3 centimeters over there. And VM is 5 centimeters. Draw an accurate front elevation of the pyramid from the direction of the arrow. So on the right hand side, I have the centimeter square grid from the question. So this is what my front elevation will look like. So I need to have 1 2 3 4 5 6. Is it 6? I need to be 6. Let me see if I can move that slightly up the line. No, I can't. Can I please? No, I can't. Okay, so I'm slightly below that, but that's fine. Right, so it's 6 squares wide, and then I'll go 1 2 3 4 squares up, and from there I will draw one line down here, and from there I'll draw a second line, and that's my front elevation. So it would be 6 centimeters across down at the base, and the height would be 4 centimeters. Okay, moving on to the next part of the question, which is work out the total surface area of the pyramid. So the pyramid is made out of the following shapes. Let me see if I can bring some shapes, so it'll save me time. Yes, there's shapes. Right, let's see if I can get some triangles and some squares. Yep. Okay, so 1 second, sorry about that. There's a square, triangle, there we go. So if you go to the previous page, the square base is 6 centimeters by 6 centimeters. So the area of the square is 6 times 6, which is 36 centimeters squared. Base times height and length times width. That's the area of a square. Now if I go back to the triangle, it's going to be, base is going to be 6 centimeters, but the height is not going to be 4, it's going to be 5 centimeters. And the reason for that is, when I look at it visually, because the triangle is slanted, the front elevation will look like it's 4 centimeters high, because it's a 2D representation of a 3D shape. When I'm working out the surface area, I would look at the triangle as 6 centimeters here, that height being 5 centimeters. So I'll go back here. In this triangle, my base is 6 centimeters across, and my height, vertical height, that makes a 90-degree angle with the base, is going to be 5 centimeters. Let me write height here. That's my base. So let me just get rid of the base, be slightly more to the left. So the area of the triangle is base times height divided by 2. The base and the height have to make a 90-degree angle, so it'll be 6 times 5 divided by 2, which is 15 centimeters squared. Now it's a square base pyramid, so there's going to be 4 triangles, so their area is going to be 15 times 4, which is 60 centimeters squared. And then I'm going to have the total surface area is going to be 60 centimeters squared plus 36, which is the area of the base, the area of the triangles plus the area of the base, which is 96 centimeters squared. Okay, that's the total surface area. We'll move on to the next question. Alright, this one was a very interesting question. A pattern is made from 4 identical squares, so all 4 squares are exactly the same. The sides of the squares are parallel to the axes, so the bottom half is parallel to the x-axis, the top, the one on the side, the vertical sides are parallel to the y-axis. Point A has coordinates 6, 7. Point B has the coordinates 38, 36. Point C is marked on the diagram. Work out the coordinates for point C. Now, I did this question in the foundation walkthrough, and when I was doing it, the first thing I noticed, right, was the overlap over here. Okay, and I was like, okay, that looks a bit tricky. But if I look horizontally, there's no overlap. There's no horizontal overlap. That means what I did then was I labeled this side as like x, saying suppose the width was x. I don't have to label it x. Just suppose I label it m for argument's sake, any letter, because I don't want people getting confused with that x and the x-axis x. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3 and 4 m's in this entire width. That's an m, that's an m, that's an m. Okay, so that width, that entire width, is going to be this distance, right? And to work out that distance, I'm going to do the x coordinate for B. I'm going to use it, and I'm going to subtract it from the x coordinate of A. So I'm going to do 38 minus 6, that's 32. Okay, so the whole width is 32, and it's split into 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts, right? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 m's. So I'm going to do 32 divided by 4. That's going to be equal to 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my m's and replace it with the number 8. Goodbye m's. Hello 8. So that's 8. That's 8. That's also 8. That's also 8. But the height's also going to be 8, right? So that means this vertical height is 8 and that vertical height is 8. There's no overlap for these two vertical heights over here. So 8 add 8 is 16, right? 8 add 8 is 16. And I know that that height is 36. So the y coordinate of B is 36. If I do 36 take away 16, that should give me the y coordinate for C. 36 take away 16 is 20. And if I do 6, so the 6 is the x coordinate for A. If I add 16 to it, because there's two 8's on here, 6, add 8, add another 8, which is 6 add 16, that would give me the x coordinate for C over here. So I'm going to go from 6, I'm going to go 8 to the right and another 8. 6 add 8 is 14, 14 add 8 is 22. So that's the 22. So that's going to be my y coordinate, that's going to be my x coordinate. So the question says work out the coordinates of C. So the coordinates of C would be 22, the x coordinate first, and then the y coordinate 20. There we go. Right, let's move on to the next question. Yeah, this is a very small representation. I'll try to fit the whole page in one screenshot, and it's not zoomed in too much, so I do apologize for the small print. Let's see if we can solve this question. So it says shape T is reflected in the line x equals minus 1. Let's draw that line, x equals minus 1. So because it's x equals minus 1, it's going to be a vertical line over here. Let's draw that here. Let me write it down. X equals minus 1. So if I'm supposed to reflect this shape into this mirror line, I'm going to count how many squares from each of these vertices. That's 1, 2, 3 jumps to the mirror line. So 3, 2, 1. That's going to be my first point. Similarly, we're going to go 1, 2 jumps here. So 2, 1. That's my second point. And then the last one is going to be 1. Excuse me. Sorry about that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. That's my third point. So I connect these three together using some straight lines, and that's my triangle. It's not very neat, unfortunately. And then I'm going to label this. Oh, okay. Then it says shape R is reflected in the line y equals minus 2. The line y equals minus 2 is a horizontal line. Let me choose a different color so you don't get confused. So that's y equals minus 2, and I'll write it down as well. Okay. And here we go. So I'm going to count into the mirror line again from that point here. 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 3 2 1. So that's my first point right at the end. Then the other point is going to be from here. 1 2 3 3 2 1. Mark the point, and the final point would be over here. So I'm going to join these points up again using a ruler. Got straight lines here on the software, and I'm going to call S the shape. Okay, describe the single transformation will map shape T to shape S. Okay, I do not have tracing paper on here. If I would have tracing paper, I would be able to demonstrate to you how to do this. Let's have a look. Do we have any tracing paper? One second. Okay. No, I don't have tracing paper on there. It would be really nice if you could have a tracing paper and you could shade it in. I've got a ruler, I've got a compass, protractor, but no tracing paper. Okay, let me get back to this. So, if I had tracing paper, what I would do is I'd place my tracing paper on top of shape T, okay, which is my object. I would draw over the tracing paper. I would hold it down with a pencil at the origin, and I would rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, which would probably end up somewhere like over there. So I know that I have to rotate it in this direction. I'll try it anti-clockwise, 270, probably end up somewhere around here. So I would need to move it further down, around say 0 minus 1. How about minus 1 minus 1? We'd have 1 2 1 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Nope. What about here? 1 2 1 2. Where was I? Sorry. So if I take this 2 across, 1 2 3 4, 2 across, 1 2. Nope. It would be easier to do it with tracing paper. There is a trick, however. I'll show you that trick. So what we need to do is we need to connect. I need green. Okay, I'm going to connect the top of the two triangles. This is to find the center of rotation. So I'm going to connect the two top two lines, and I need to find the midpoint. It might be useful to use the ruler now, actually. So let's see if I can get that ruler. Yay. I've got a ruler. Let's see if I can measure. It's not the best of colors. So it's around 10.6 centimeters. So at around 5.3 I would make a point, which is just roughly around here. okay, which is roughly around this side. You won't be able to see it. Okay, just move the ruler on the side, and then I'll connect another two. So this line corresponds to that one, and this one, because it's upside down, corresponds. Wait, let's do the second one first. And then I try and find that midpoint. I can already see it's meeting over there. So my center of enlargement is going to be the third line also. If I draw it, all three lines meet at that point. So my center of enlargement is kind of gonna be at that particular point. So the trick is to draw these lines to the corresponding points. You mark the midpoint and you draw a perpendicular to that midpoint, and where they meet is the center of enlargement. But you won't even need to draw that in this case, because you can quite clearly see where they meet. So let's describe the rotation. Again, apologies because it's taken this long because of the lack of tracing paper. Right, so how do I describe this transformation? So I would say rotate. Let me switch to red, it's a bit more vibrant. There we go. So rotate T, I could say 180 degrees. Now when you rotate 180 degrees, you don't need to mention clockwise or anti-clockwise, because 180 degrees clockwise or anti-clockwise is the same. But I'm just doing it just in case you have to rotate another sort of angle and you forget the clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. And the coordinates are -1, -2. Okay. And before, I just need to check something before we go to the next question. Okay, that's fine. And can I move? I need my mouse. Right, we can get rid of the ruler. We'll move on to the next question. Okay, question number 8 says the perimeter of a right angle triangle. So let's draw a right angle triangle. Right angle triangle. There's our right angle. That's our triangle. The perimeter of a right angle triangle is 72 centimeters. The lengths of its sides are in the ratio 3:4:5. They're not in centimeters, they're just parts. Work out the area of the triangle. Okay, so suppose I call it 3x, 4x, and 5x. So I can add all the parts. 3x plus 4x plus 5x, 3 plus 4 plus 5, that's 7, plus 5 is 12x. Okay, so that would be the distance around the triangle, which is its perimeter, and that is 72. So to get x, we would divide both sides by 12, and x is equal to 6 centimeters. So 3x would be 3 times 6, which is 18 centimeters. And 4x would be 4 times 6, which is 24 centimeters. And 5x would be 5 times 6, which is 30 centimeters. Now the right angles here, so The question asks you to work out area of the triangle, and that's base times height divided by 2. The base and the height have to make a 90-degree angle, so the base is going to be 24, the height is going to be 18 divided by 2. That's in my triangle. It could be different in someone else's triangle, but the numbers would be 18 and 24, either the base being 18 or the height being 18. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to make my life easier. I'm going to simplify this fraction. So 2 goes into 2 ones, and 2 goes into 24 12 times. So I'm going to do 18 times 12. 18 times 10 is 180. 18 times 2 is 36. Add the 2 together. That's 216. So the area of the triangle is 216 centimeters squared. Okay. It's taken quite a long time to do these 8 questions. Write down next question. Value of 36 to the power of half. Anything. So when you have a fraction as your index, suppose I have x to the power 1 over n, that would be nth root of x, right? So 36 to the power half is square root of 36. So whatever the denominator of this fraction, whatever that denominator, is going to be that root. So if that was 3, then you would work out the cube root. And the square root of square root of 36 is 6 or minus 6. Write down the value of 23 to the power 0. Anything to the power 0 is 1, because that is the thing, that number divided by itself. And then it says work out, let me just write this question over here. So 27 to the power minus 2 over 3. So I'm going to solve this in steps. Whenever I've got a negative power and I've got a whole number, the first thing I do is I write it as a fraction. To write a whole number as a fraction, you just write it over 1. So I'm going to do 27 over 1 to the power minus 2 over 3. Then the next thing I do is get rid of the negative power. In order to do that, I have to flip the fraction over and write it down as its reciprocal. So that would be 1 over 27. And I can get rid of the negative power. So that would be to the power 2 over 3. Okay, then I get rid of the denominator. Remember I told you, whatever the denominator, it's that root. So the denominator, got tongue tied over there, is 3. So I'm going to do cube root of the numerator and the denominator, cube root of 1 over cube root of 27, all of it to the power 2. Cube root of 1 is 1. Oops, I haven't left enough space. Let me try and go back here. There's much more space here. Right, cube root of 1 is 1. Cube root of 27 is 3. And that's squared. So that'll be 1 squared over 3 squared. 1 squared is 1. And 3 squared is 9. That's my answer to this question. Okay, now this video is already quite a lengthy one, so I'm going to stop on question 9. I'm going to do a second part because I will have some difficulty uploading it. Okay, hopefully see you soon. Take care and thank you for being patient. Apologies for the lack of tracing paper.